My fiancée laughed. Relax, it's just dinner with my ex. I told her, enjoy it. She came home later to find the locks changed, and her ex's wife waiting outside. When Tessa told me she was having dinner with her ex, she said it the same way someone might mention a dentist appointment. Casual, routine, supposedly harmless. But something about the way she laughed after saying it felt wrong. Too light. Too forced. Like she was watching me for a reaction she'd already rehearsed handling. We'd been together for 3 years. In that time, I had learned every shade of her laughter. The genuine one that came when she was surprised, the sarcastic one she used at work, and the brittle, defensive one that came when she was hiding something. That night, it was the third one. She was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting the straps of a black dress I hadn't seen in months. It wasn't her dinner with an old friend kind of outfit. It was the kind of dress she used to wear when we still tried to impress each other. She'd even borrowed my cologne once to spray on herself because she said it blended better with my scent. That night, she smelled like someone preparing to erase that memory. She said they were just catching up. Apparently, Brent, the ex, had reached out after years of no contact. He'd just gone through a messy divorce and wanted to apologize for how things ended. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, pretending to accept it. Pretending I didn't remember that Brent was the same man she once swore she'd never forgive. While she finished her makeup, I walked to the garage, pretending to look for my keys. In truth, I was installing a tiny, motion-triggered smart camera near the front door. I'd bought it a few weeks earlier to monitor some package thefts in the neighborhood, but that night, it suddenly had another use. I wasn't planning to spy, not really. I just wanted to see what kind of expression she'd wear when she left. When she finally stepped out around 7:15, she didn't even glance back. Her heels clicked across the concrete like punctuation marks in a story I hadn't finished reading yet. At first, I tried to convince myself it was fine. I watched a game, ordered takeout, tried to act normal. But by 9, when she still hadn't texted, I checked her location history through our shared calendar app. The restaurant she mentioned, Luca's on Main, wasn't even open that late. Her last ping was from a parking lot near a hotel on the highway. I didn't explode. I didn't even move. I just sat there staring at the screen while my food went cold. That strange calm you get before something breaks settled in. Around midnight, she texted. Running late, lost track of time. Don't wait up. That message was a confession without details. I replied once. Okay, enjoy it. It wasn't sarcasm. It was clarity. Something inside me detached right then. Not anger, not jealousy, just understanding. People show you who they are in the moments they think you're too tired to notice. I turned off the TV, went outside, and sat on the porch. The night air was cold, clean, and quiet enough to hear the neighbor's wind chime. I realized how long it had been since I'd actually felt the silence of my own home. Tessa had a way of filling every space, not with noise, but with presence. Even when she wasn't talking, the air felt occupied by her moods. That night, for the first time, it felt like mine again. At 1:42 a.m., I heard the lock click. I watched from the hallway as she slipped in, barefoot, holding her heels like someone returning from a stranger's house. Her makeup was smudged, her perfume faintly mixed with someone else's cologne. She didn't notice me standing there in the dark. She just tossed her shoes by the door and crept upstairs like a guilty teenager. I didn't confront her. I didn't even let her know I was awake. I just noted every detail. The way she checked her reflection in the hallway mirror, the way she paused before entering the bedroom, the way her face shifted when she saw her phone light up with a notification she quickly cleared. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She hummed while making coffee, talked about how awkward dinner had been, and thanked me for being so understanding. I asked where they ended up after the restaurant closed. She said they got dessert at a cafe. I asked which one. She said she forgot the name. She was lying, but she was too calm about it. That was what struck me most, the ease with which she could build an entire false memory and decorate it with casual gestures. Later that day, while she was in the shower, I scrolled through her phone bill. A new number appeared multiple times that week, clustered around late evenings. I cross-checked it online. Brent's office line. That was when I decided not to confront her yet. I realized that catching someone red-handed isn't nearly as satisfying as letting them walk straight into their own trap. I wanted the truth to unravel itself without me forcing it. So I played along. I acted normal. I complimented her outfit the next time she said she was meeting coworkers. I even offered to pick her up one night, just to see what excuse she'd come up with. She laughed and said she'd rather take an Uber so she could drink. That laugh again, thin, nervous, dishonest. That night, while she was gone, I went into her closet to grab a sweater and noticed her jewelry box slightly open. Inside, next to her usual earrings, was a folded receipt from the hotel where her location had pinged days before. It wasn't even hidden. She must have thought I'd never look there. The receipt wasn't for a room. It was for dinner, 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine, and a dessert for 2. The time matched perfectly with the hours she'd said she was running late. Still, I didn't confront her. I folded the receipt back and left everything untouched. I understood then that the moment she believed she'd gotten away with it would be the moment she'd make her biggest mistake. Over the next few days, her behavior changed slightly. She became oddly affectionate, more attentive, almost guilty. She started bringing home little gifts, cooking dinner more often, kissing me on the cheek before work. The timing was perfect. She thought she was restoring balance before I noticed the tilt. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was curious. Curious about what people do when they think their lies are invisible. By the end of that week, I had a full mental record. Her new patterns, her calls, the nights she stayed late. I didn't confront her because I wanted the story to reach its own ending. Some people only understand consequences when they trip over them. The next time she said she was meeting her co-workers, she used the same perfume, wore the same dress, and left with the same brittle laugh. I simply said, "Enjoy it," then watched her drive away. I changed the camera batteries, poured myself a drink, and sat by the window as the clock ticked toward midnight. I didn't know what I'd do yet, but I knew the story wasn't over. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight cutting through the blinds and a message notification blinking on my phone. The sender wasn't familiar, Monica P., but the preview froze me. It said, "You don't know me, but we need to talk about Brent." For a full minute, I just stared at it, the name pulsing like a quiet alarm. I'd never met Brent's wife, but I knew of her. Tessa had mentioned her in passing once, describing her as controlling and always checking his phone. The irony wasn't lost on me. I opened the message. Monica explained she'd found something on Brent's Apple Watch, a string of notifications from a number she didn't recognize. Photos, meeting confirmations, a reservation at the same hotel restaurant where Tessa's receipt had come from. She didn't accuse me of anything directly. She just asked if I was dating Tessa, and if so, whether she'd been acting different lately. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reread the message several times. The way she wrote was measured, not emotional, not dramatic. She sounded like someone who already knew the answer but wanted to hear it spoken out loud. When I finally responded, I kept it short. I told her I was, in fact, with Tessa. I said we'd been together for 3 years and lived together. Then I asked why she thought I needed to know about the messages. Her reply came fast. She said she'd confronted Brent the night before, and he'd brushed it off as work stuff. Then she mentioned something that made my stomach turn. She said there was a voicemail left on her phone by mistake, a message that began mid-sentence, like someone had dialed her pocket accidentally. In the recording, 2 people were whispering about keeping stories straight and making sure the timelines match. The woman's voice, she said, sounded like someone named Tessa. I didn't need to hear it to know she was right. That day, everything around me felt quieter. I worked from home, but nothing really registered. Every email, every phone call was white noise. I kept imagining Monica, another stranger pulled into the same tangled lie, sitting in her kitchen, listening to that voicemail on repeat, trying to piece together what her husband and my girlfriend were doing behind our backs. In the evening, I asked Tessa about her day. She said it was long but productive. I asked whether she'd talked to anyone new lately. She said no, while scrolling through her phone. I could almost admire the steadiness of her performance. There was no guilt in her tone, no hesitation. She was a professional liar, calm and fluent. Later that night, Monica sent another message, a screenshot of a restaurant confirmation under Brent's name, timestamped for the same night Tessa had said she was at a coworker happy hour. She added one more line. He said it was a client dinner, but he wore his wedding ring that night, she knew. I realized something then. Monica wasn't reaching out for revenge. She wanted proof. She wanted to know if the woman her husband was seeing was the same one who lived in my house. And deep down, I wanted the same thing. So we started comparing notes. It became a quiet collaboration between 2 strangers linked by betrayal. She sent screenshots of Brent's call history. I matched the timestamps with Tessa's calendar. Every time, the pieces fit perfectly. She sent a photo of Brent's car parked outside a coffee shop downtown. I recognized the same background from one of Tessa's random lunch photos she'd posted on her story. Same street mural, same bench, same cup logo. We didn't need confessions. The evidence had already spoken. But still, I didn't confront Tessa. I realized something darker in myself. I didn't want her to stop yet. I wanted her to feel safe. I wanted her to keep weaving her little fantasy until it caught her by the throat. So I began planning in silence. I updated the locks quietly, replacing the front door cylinder one afternoon while she was at work. I kept a copy of the old key, but the new one fit smoother, a small detail she wouldn't notice until the right night. I also stopped sharing our location calendar. She'd never notice, She barely looked at it anymore. Instead, I created a new one under a dummy account that tracked only hers. I didn't want surprises. The next few days unfolded like a cruel experiment. She grew bolder, leaving earlier, returning later, texting less. Each night she came home rehearsed and composed, as if following a script. But cracks started to show. One night she came back wearing a necklace I hadn't seen before, something delicate, with a small heart-shaped pendant. The next morning, she claimed it was a gift from a coworker. That same day, Monica texted me a photo of a jewelry store receipt with Brent's name on it. The total matched the necklace price. By now, the pieces were so synchronized it almost felt choreographed. Then came the moment everything shifted. On Thursday evening, Monica texted me a short message. He's out again. If she's with him, I'll know. I didn't answer. I just sat by the window with the camera feed open, watching the timestamp roll past 11. Tessa still wasn't home. My phone buzzed again at 11:17. Monica had sent a photo. Brent's car, parked at the same hotel restaurant again. The reflection in the glass showed two figures at a table near the window. One of them had Tessa's hair. Monica wrote, "I'm done." I stared at that message for a while, then typed back, "Not yet. Let me handle it." I don't know why I wrote that. Maybe because I didn't want chaos. Maybe because I wanted control. But something about ending it cleanly, no yelling, no begging, felt more powerful than confrontation. The next day, I texted Monica again and told her to meet me near the house that night, just before midnight. She didn't ask why. She just agreed. Tessa left for another networking dinner that evening. She looked flawless, confident, almost glowing. As she walked out, she said she'd be back late and kissed my cheek without looking at me. I watched her drive off, waited half an hour, then messaged Monica, "Come now." I turned off the porch lights, left only the hallway lamp on, and waited. My pulse didn't race. My hands didn't shake. There was only that deep, eerie calm again, the kind that comes when you stop expecting fairness from people. By the time Monica arrived, the house looked normal from the outside. She parked across the street, headlights off, hair tied back, face set like someone walking into court. We didn't speak much. I handed her my spare key to the old lock. She looked confused at first, then realized what it meant. Then, together, we waited. At 12:08, the sound of heels echoed down the driveway. Tessa's silhouette appeared in the dim light. Same perfume, same laugh on the phone with someone. She reached for the door, key ready. It didn't turn. She froze, tried again. The key scraped uselessly against the new lock. Then, from the shadows near the porch, Monica stepped forward. And that was the moment everything began to unravel. The sound of the key scraping against the lock was sharper than I expected. It echoed through the quiet street like a warning she didn't understand. Tessa tried again, her breath quickening, the metallic clink of the key turning frantic. Then, from the soft glow of the porch light, Monica stepped into view. For a second, neither of them spoke. They just stared at each other, two halves of a secret that had finally been dragged into daylight, even if it was midnight. Tessa's eyes flicked between the unfamiliar face and the locked door, her expression twisting from confusion to fear to fury in the span of a heartbeat. Monica didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She just said, calm and cold, "You've been eating dinners with my husband." Tessa laughed, not the kind of laugh that comes from amusement, but the brittle, desperate one she used when she had nowhere left to run. She said it was a mistake, that she didn't know Brent was still married, that it wasn't what Monica thought. But her voice was cracking, the rhythm of her lies losing their practiced ease. I watched from the upstairs window, the curtains drawn just enough for me to see without being seen. It wasn't revenge that made me watch. It was fascination. Watching someone's mask crumble is like seeing an entire character dissolve in real time. The body remains, but the performance dies. Monica didn't yell. She took out her phone, pressed play on the voicemail. The sound drifted up the street, muffled whispers, fragments of sentences. And then, clearly, unmistakably, Tessa's voice sang, "We just have to keep our story straight. He's too trusting to ever suspect." The silence after that was unbearable. Even from where I stood, I could feel it. Tessa's face went pale. Her hand trembled on the doorknob. She looked toward the house, maybe expecting me to appear, to rescue her, to defend her, to make the nightmare stop. I didn't move. Then came headlights slicing through the dark. A car pulled up behind Monica's. Brent stepped out, half-dressed, hair messy, expression frozen as he realized who was standing in front of him. That was when Monica snapped. She didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She walked straight up to him and hit him, not hard, but cleanly, across the face. Then she dropped his phone onto the pavement. "You left this at home," she said, and kicked it toward him. The screen lit up with messages. Even from the window, I saw the glow of Tessa's name. The notifications were stacked like gravestones. each timestamp another reminder of how thoroughly they'd buried themselves. Brent tried to grab her arm, but Monica stepped back, shaking her head. "You deserve each other," she said. Then she looked up toward the house, almost as if she knew I was watching, and added, "But not here." She turned and walked to her car, her movements calm and deliberate. Brent called after her, but she didn't look back. She started the engine, headlights cutting across the two of them, then drove away without hesitation. Now there were only two people left outside, Tessa and Brent, and the door that wouldn't open. Tessa's calm was gone. She turned toward him, eyes wild, voice rising. I couldn't make out every word, but I caught enough, fragments about how he'd promised she'd left, how he'd said it was safe, how I wasn't supposed to find out. Brent looked panicked now, his confidence bleeding out. He kept glancing toward the street, probably terrified someone might hear. But it didn't matter, the whole thing was over. At some point, Tessa started pounding on the door, shouting my name. I didn't answer. I just stood there, still as stone, watching her reflection in the glass as she screamed apologies into the night. When she realized I wasn't coming down, she switched tactics. She turned to pleading, then anger, then hysteria. She shouted that I was overreacting, that nothing happened, that she could explain everything. But her words sounded hollow. Even she didn't believe them anymore. Brent finally tried to calm her down, placing a hand on her shoulder. She pushed him away. He said something sharp. His tone changed from guilty to defensive. Suddenly, they were arguing with each other, voices overlapping, every lie they'd told now twisting back against them. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, a neighbor's porch light flicked on. Curtains shifted down the block. The sound had drawn attention. Two silhouettes appeared across the street, whispering, watching. Tessa noticed and went silent. She stood there, chest heaving, face blotched from crying. Brent muttered something and started walking toward his car. She grabbed his arm, begging him not to leave her there, but he shook her off. The engine started, and he drove away, fast, reckless, like a man fleeing a crime scene. That was when Tessa completely broke. She sat down on the porch steps, head in her hands, shoulders shaking. Every ounce of composure was gone. I should have felt something. Anger, pity, maybe even satisfaction. But I didn't. All I felt was distance. Like she was just a stranger sitting on my porch, a trespasser in a place she no longer belonged. She stayed there for a long time, alternating between crying and muttering to herself. Eventually, she stood, tried the lock one last time, and then stormed off down the street barefoot, clutching her purse to her chest. The next morning, I found her necklace lying on the doorstep. The small heart-shaped pendant glinted weakly in the sunlight. I left it there. Later that day, I got another message from Monica. It was short, "He's gone. I filed this morning." That's when the adrenaline finally left me. The silence that filled the house wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy. For days, I went through the motions. Work, chores, sleep, but nothing stuck. I'd won, technically, but it didn't feel like victory. Still, something inside me knew it had to end this way. There was no conversation that could fix it, no apology that could undo it. The truth wasn't supposed to bring comfort. It was supposed to end illusions. A week later, Tessa texted me. Just one line. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. Instead, I changed my number. She came by once after that. I knew because the camera caught her standing by the door again. Same spot, same confused look, as if she still couldn't understand how she'd lost everything so fast. But she didn't knock. She just stood there, then turned around and left. That was the last time I saw her in person. Still, I sometimes caught her shadow in small places, a forgotten file on my laptop, a scent on an old jacket, a restaurant charge I'd never canceled. She lingered like dust after demolition, just fragments of a structure that no longer existed. But the strangest part wasn't her absence. It was Monica's silence. After that night, she disappeared completely. No more messages, no updates. I imagined she moved on with her life, rebuilding from the wreckage Brent left behind. As for me, I started to realize something. The worst part of betrayal isn't discovering the lie. It's realizing how much of yourself you invested in maintaining it. I had spent weeks pretending not to notice, playing the calm observer, letting the truth unfold naturally. But the truth, once it finally arrived, didn't set me free. It just emptied me out. And yet, deep down, I knew the story wasn't finished. Consequences take time. They don't always arrive when you expect them to. I didn't know it then, but Tessa's final collapse, her real downfall, was still ahead. And when it came, it didn't come from me. It came from the life she thought she could still crawl back to. 2 weeks passed before the real fallout began. It started quietly, as these things often do, like cracks forming in ice, barely visible at first. Then, one morning, everything gave way. I was at the office early when my coworker mentioned something about a crazy story circulating online from a local interior design firm. I didn't think much of it until he said the name. Tessa's company. He laughed as he described the gossip thread. A client had filed a complaint about unprofessional conduct, complete with photos that had somehow leaked. When I checked, the pictures were unmistakable. Tessa and Brent, dining at the same hotel restaurant, sitting too close, holding hands. The timestamp was from the night Monica and I had confronted them. I didn't post them. I didn't have to. Truth has its own gravity. It drags everything hidden to the surface. Someone at the restaurant must have recognized them. By noon, her name was trending in local circles. By evening, her company had suspended her pending an internal investigation. Later that night, my phone lit up again. A number I didn't recognize, but I didn't have to. It was her. I let it ring out. A minute later, a voicemail appeared. Her voice was shaky, half angry, half desperate. She said she'd lost her job, that people were calling her names, that she didn't deserve this. She said Brent had vanished, stopped returning her calls, blocked her on everything. She ended the message with a question she must have thought sounded sincere. Why are you doing this to me? I didn't respond. I wasn't doing anything to her. Life was. The next few days turned strange. I found myself driving by her apartment once, not out of longing but curiosity, like revisiting a crime scene. Her car was gone, blinds drawn, mailbox overflowing. The girl who once filled every space with laughter and control now lived in silence. Then Monica called. I hadn't heard from her since that night, and her voice startled me at first. Calm, tired, but steady. She told me Brent had been served divorce papers and was crashing at a friend's house. Apparently, he'd tried reaching out to her again, apologizing, promising therapy and redemption. She said she'd blocked him mid-sentence. Before hanging up, she thanked me. Not for revenge, but for not letting him rewrite the story. I didn't know what to say. There was no satisfaction in hearing it. Only closure that felt heavier than I expected. A few days later, something unexpected arrived in my mailbox, a small envelope with no return address. Inside was a folded letter in Tessa's handwriting. It wasn't long. She wrote that she'd been staying with a friend, that she knew I hated her, that she just wanted me to hear her side. She claimed the affair started accidentally, that Brent had taken advantage of her confusion, that she never meant for it to go that far. She said she wished she could go back, that she missed our normal mornings, the way I made her coffee just right. I read it once, then folded it carefully and placed it in the drawer with the hotel receipt and Monica's screenshots. Not out of nostalgia, but as evidence, a small archive of the person she had chosen to become. Around that same time, I heard through a mutual friend that Brent had been forced to resign from his company. Monica's father was on the board. The divorce proceedings weren't kind to him. Word spread fast in their social circle, and soon the same people who had once praised his charisma now avoided him entirely. As for Tessa, her fall was slower but more humiliating. Her employer officially terminated her for breach of conduct, citing ethical concerns. The story followed her to job interviews. Even smaller firms didn't want the risk. She applied for temp work, freelanced, tried to rebuild, but her reputation stuck like tar. Weeks turned into months. I focused on rebuilding my own life. Long hours at work, quiet weekends, rediscovering routines I'd abandoned. For the first time in years, my apartment felt peaceful. No arguments about lateness, no perfume in the air masking guilt, no laughter meant to distract from lies. One afternoon, I stopped by a cafe downtown after a meeting. As I waited for my order, I saw her through the glass. Tessa, sitting alone outside, hunched over a laptop, her clothes plain, her eyes tired. For a second, she didn't see me. She was staring at her phone, face blank, as if waiting for something that would never come. When she finally looked up and spotted me, her expression froze. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. Just sat there, like she'd seen a ghost she both missed and feared. I nodded once, politely, and walked away. I didn't need words. The silence said enough. After that day, I stopped thinking about her entirely. Until one evening, nearly 6 months later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Monica again. She said Brent had moved to another state, remarried quickly, and was already facing another separation rumor. Then she said something that made me pause. Tessa had reached out to her. Apparently, Tessa had called to apologize for everything, claiming she finally understood what she'd destroyed. Monica said she'd listened for a while, then simply replied, "You don't apologize to clean your conscience. You do it to face what you've done." Then she hung up. I didn't know whether to feel pity or peace. Maybe both. Maybe neither. A few days later, I got a final text from Tessa. It came late, after midnight. She said she'd found a new job in another city, that she was trying to start over, that she hoped I'd find happiness too. She ended with one last line. I think I finally know what losing everything feels like. I didn't reply. Some stories don't need an ending. But sometimes I still think about that night. The locked door, the way her laughter cracked when she realized she'd lost control. I remember how calm it felt, standing behind the curtain, watching everything unravel exactly as it needed to. People always say closure comes from forgiveness. I disagree. Sometimes closure comes from knowing you didn't need to raise your voice to end something poisonous. Sometimes it's enough to simply walk away and let the truth finish what it started. Months later, I moved apartments, sold the old house, and replaced every piece of furniture we'd bought together. I even replaced the locks again, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to. There was something satisfying about the clean click of new keys turning where her old ones once failed. On my first night there, I stood by the window and watched the city lights flicker below. The air smelled different, like rain and paint, and something resembling possibility. I thought about how strange it was that a single laugh, one careless, dismissive sound, had started the chain that burned everything down. Tessa's laugh. That same brittle sound that once made me uneasy. The one that told me, long before the lies ever surfaced, that something was off. Now, when people talk about red flags, I understand what they really mean. It's not the obvious things, the lies, the cheating, the drama. It's the tiny details we choose to ignore because it's easier than admitting we're already losing someone. I don't know where she is now. Maybe she rebuilt. Maybe she's still pretending. But none of it matters. Because that night, when she came home to find the locks changed and Monica waiting, something else changed too. Not just the locks, not just the relationship, me. I stopped mistaking calm for weakness. I stopped giving people the benefit of the doubt when their actions begged otherwise. And, most importantly, I learned that sometimes silence isn't forgiveness. It's the sound of a door closing for good. And I never changed that lesson. Just the locks.